to check your work of cutting that, if you've got one of these, put it on. This is obviously an ancient one. Got a bunch of nicer ones around the house, but I don't really care right now. Put it on something with an ohms symbol. It's an omega, which basically means when these touch, the needle goes up. So I'm going to put these. I'm going to hold this with my teeth. Okay, I just realized one more little thing here. Even if you test the continuity between, let's say jumper 1 or jumper 2 and its other little spot there, after you've knocked the bridge away, you're still going to get some connection, because that the circuit, basically it's connecting not through this bridge, but it's connecting somewhere else through the circuit. So it's going to show that they're technically connected. They're just not. There's going to be some resistance. So if you look, if I touch these together, I get the full meter sweep. Whereas if I, this is really hard to do with one hand. Get these on there, just like that. It only goes about halfway. Likewise, if I put this on 2 of the common points, like this, maybe. Like that. Maybe. I can't quite do this with one hand. Oh, almost had it. Come on, there we go. So those 2 are connected. But this is disconnected enough, basically. It's connected somewhere else in the circuit board, but we don't really care about that. We just want it to be disconnected where that bridge is. And so you can see that I've done a pretty decent job of getting this all cleaned out. Basically, you just keep testing it. There you can see. You can see there's copper on one side and copper on the other side and a blank space in the middle. So that's a good job. Okay. So, basically, what we want to do, let me get a piece of paper or something here. Is we're going to wire up this switch so that we connect, these 2 jumpers. So we've got jumper 1, jumper 2, and we want to either connect this or we want to connect that. So basically, on the switch, I'm just going to draw the single pole double throw. This middle one is going to be the common point, obviously, because if you put the switch in this direction, like I said, then it's going to connect these 2, and if you put it in this direction, it's going to connect these 2. So this is always going to be used. So it makes sense that we're going to put the common point on the switch with the common side of the jumpers, which these are interconnected anyway, so we don't have to worry about connecting both of them. Then we just need to connect, let me use a different color or something here. We just need to connect one of these to this one, and this to this one. So then we can connect these 2, or we can connect these 2, depending on which direction the switch is in. Really simple stuff. So, that's going to be our diagram we're going to need to follow. I draw it one more time, but nicely. Jumper 1, jumper 2, and you can just kind of, actually this needs to go here. That just got kind of confusing, but and here's our switch. So, this is going to go to the center, and these are going to go to the outside ones. It doesn't really matter which one, because you can mount the switch in that way, or you can mount the switch in that way. It doesn't really matter. You're going to get both options anyway. Just going to need to probably label the outside of your case accordingly. So, I'm going to clean this, get these wires off this switch, and then I'm going to show you. We're going to need to drill a hole in the case, obviously, or something, so that we can actually get this switch to come through. So, that will be next. So, we're going to need to drill this hole, like I just said, because I probably just cut the video. So what the switch needs to move in a square direction. It's kind of weird. So what I'm going to do, since I can't, drill a square hole, it's going to be round. That was a really bad circle, by the way. What I'm going to do is drill 2 holes, and then kind of just file out the edges so that it's square. Hopefully that'll work pretty good. I'll just kind of do this. I'll just have this little bit of excess to file out. I've got a square file. You can also probably just use an X-Acto knife and slowly kind of cut in here and cut in here. It might be a little dangerous too. You could also, if you want, probably just trim this stuff right here. Then you'll have kind of an oval cut out, and that, if you make it wide enough, then your switch will have its full range of motion within those. You'll just have a little bit of the gold part of the switch, or well, in that case it's gold, showing through the edges, which is no problem at all. I just like gonna try and make it look as best as possible, as professional as possible. So I'm gonna go with that. Do whatever you want. Somehow you gotta mount this thing in here. So I would measure it up, make sure it's nice and parallel with the edge of your case and all that stuff. Make the hole, put it in a good spot. One quick thing to mention: they do make switches, those little toggle switches. They're like this, and they just have a little lever on them, and you can move that lever left and right. Those might be a good idea to get, because I didn't have any, and it's too late to go to Radio Shack or wherever. But a lot of those are actually round, and they just have threads on them like a screw. So, and then they have their 3 or 6 pulls on the bottom, or 3 or 6 connections on the bottom, and you can just drill a regular hole and kind of jam that down in there, just like a screw, or like these mods that I've already done. So that's actually a good idea. You might keep your eye out for those when you're buying switches, if you need to buy a switch. So they're a hell of a lot easier. I just kind of like these, linear toggle switches like these, because they're black. They kind of match it, almost look like they're supposed to be there, as opposed to these, which are normally made out of nice shiny metal. Which I guess that's a kind of a personal choice, but whatever. Good idea if you don't want to worry about this crap. I really don't want to worry about this crap. If I had one of these, I'd probably give up and use it. So, anyway, cut your hole if you're going to do the square one. And then it has 2 screw holes on the sides, kind of approximately here. So you're going to want to put the switch probably in backwards, and mark these holes, because you're going to need to drill 2 more holes so you can put screws in those, because you got to screw this in. Unless you want to glue it in. Damn, that's kind of a good idea. I might want to epoxy that in. Crap. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe screw the holes. I'm not going to put those on, but I'll have my switch there anyway, and I'll just put some epoxy around the edge, maybe some super glue or something, and hold it in that way, and then it'll look, you won't have screw holes. It's great.